it doesn't matter if you're doing what's exactly written on the board. That is a scaling of the workout as intended.
Welcome to the show. I am Coach Jay. I am here
Coach
with
Heidi.
Coach Heidi. Yeah,
Hey.
so we are back. I'm gonna make this. This is 2 weeks in a row we've been doing
I know.
this. Yeah, this is good. Back for the second time in like 2 years
Yep.
and in 2 weeks.
Let's make it a habit.
We're gonna talk a little bit about like scaling today because this is something that comes up for, we do a lot of weightlifting, we do a lot of complicated movements here, and we talk about, and we often will scale the movements, meaning like we will adapt the movements based on like your ability or your injuries or your skill levels or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things that I feel like we as coaches do it all the time.
Constantly.
But as an athlete, it feels a little like, oh, am I being a pain by
Totally.
telling the coach that my shoulder hurts and I can't do this movement? And so it's just something that I thought you get tons of like texts and
All the
things
time.
like, oh, we're doing this movement today. What do I do, coach?
Yeah.
And so let's talk about it today.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah. So first of all, why are you getting these texts?
Probably because I'm the one that communicates how injured I've been in the past, and probably the one, that gives them the most modifications or mobility over the course of years,
because
right?
you've seen people
Because
with
I
their
see them.
injuries and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see them
yeah.
with their injuries, or I'm the nerdy one in class. It's like, hey, you're doing weird stuff. Like,
Yeah.
let's modify this so that you're not in back pain when you do burpees, right?
Yeah.
So I think I just assume that role because that's how I operate. I
Yeah.
can't unsee the things.
Yeah, yeah. So let's kind of break down what scaling
Yeah.
is, okay? And maybe we'll use a workout as an example.
Sure.
So let's say that we have a workout that is 10 minutes
Yep.
and you are doing 10, I don't know, some sort of overhead movement. What would it be?
Overhead squats.
Okay, 10 overhead squats and you're doing 10, so that's a weightlifting movement, some sort of gymnastic movement. What's the next one?
Pull-ups.
Okay, so 10 overhead squats, 10 pull-ups, and then
400-meter run.
and then a 400-meter run. Okay, so you do one weightlifting, one gymnastics, one monostructural or like cardio.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this workout, you are the given workout. There's going to be a weight that we suggest you use.
Mm-hmm.
So what would give me an example? What would the weight be?
Let's make it moderate. So 95-65 on the overhead squat.
See, even that answer is really interesting. Moderate.
Yeah.
95-65.
But that's the experience when you see it and it's a movement like overhead squat and you're thinking like, it took me 6 months to overhead squat the barbell.
Yeah.
When you're seeing that and realizing this, I couldn't even do this for 1 and I'm supposed to do it for 10. It's that little gut check of like, should I even show up for this workout?
Yeah. Okay. So the weight would be 95-65, which you would classify as moderate for what type of athlete?
Like intermediate to advanced, someone who's been here 2-ish plus years.
Okay. So maybe like kind of, I would borderline advanced because 95-65, maybe. Yeah. That's a decent amount of weight.
Yeah.
Right?
It's,
Okay.
It's not nothing. You have to have mastered the movement and have good positions and, worked it a bit.
So when we write this workout, so first of all, when we write this workout, we're writing it for an advanced athlete,
Yeah.
right? So we're writing it for somebody who's been here, I would say more like 3-4 years.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So overhead squat's a very difficult movement.
Technical. Yep.
Yeah. And you're doing a lot of them.
Yep.
And then the pull-ups is maybe slightly less difficult movement, but you have to have a lot of skills. You have to have a lot of strength and all that kind of stuff. And if you're doing kipping pull-ups, then there's like skills to that too. And then the 400-meter run, for some people, that's a long distance.
In this context, it should be kind of nothing, like under 2 minutes.
It should be about 2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the intention of the workout is that you're picking up that weight and you are going to be lifting that for 10 squats before you're putting it down.
Yep.
So 10 overhead squats before you put it down. And the intention is maybe for the first round or two, you're doing those pull-ups in sets of 10.
Yep.
Right? So you'll do 10 and then you'll go and do the run. And the intention is that you'll be back by 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yep. So that would be a given workout in a class. Now, the interesting thing about scaling is based on your ability level, let's say it's your first day, or like maybe you've been here for 10 years. There's different scalings based on your ability level.
Yep.
So that workout as given is actually just a suggestion.
Yep.
It's not the final answer for people, right?
Yeah.
So how would you scale that workout for somebody that's been here, let's say 3 months?
Yeah.
Like they've been through the first 8 weeks, they've dialed a couple of things in, but they don't have pull-ups, and overhead squat is like really unfamiliar for them. And maybe they don't run too fast.
Yeah.
Right? So how would you scale that workout? And how long did we say that we had a time?
minutes.
10 minutes.
You told
okay.
me 10 minutes.
Yeah. And okay, so actually I have one more question. How many rounds do you think people should get in this workout?
3+.
Okay, so 3 rounds in 10 minutes. So how would you scale this workout for that person?
Yeah, so it comes down to a few factors. One is kind of simplicity / your skill, right? It's not just a weight issue at this point because it's someone who's fairly new. Overhead squat's really technical. So I would look at the 3 movements and pick one of them to really focus on, right?
Yeah.
So overhead squat, I would have them go with a PVC just to get some reps of trying it.
Yeah.
Maybe empty barbell. Maybe. If they're super mobile, maybe I would give them an empty barbell.
Yeah.
But certainly like a PVC would be plenty.
Yeah.
I would then almost certainly give them jumping pull-ups because I know in relation to the original workout, it's going to be fairly high heart rate, something you can do in one set. And so I'd prefer to go the route of let's keep that heart rate high. Let's get this quick little gymnastic skill. And then you'd go out for a run. So assuming they're not a great runner, I would probably have them run 200, honestly, and just focus on maybe they got 4 rounds out of this instead of 3, but I would focus on them getting some skill practice as well as the high heart rate that the original workout is going to ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're advanced athlete doing this workout and their heart rate hits like 155 or something, you would want to basically modify the workout for that person who's been here for 3 months so that they still hit that 155.
Yep.
Right. I mean, we're not measuring heart rate, but yeah.
I want it to feel the same for the new person as it would for, say, one of the coaches.
Yeah. So there's actually a, like if you did a scale of like a rate of perceived exertion.
RPE.
Yeah. Like how hard it feels.
Yeah.
Right. Scale of 1 to 5. Like what would you want this workout to feel like?
Yeah, like probably a 4. 10-minute workouts are pretty gross. So it's kind of a sustained 4. It's not a sprint, but about 3 minutes in, you're going to be really mad at me.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you just hang on.
So if you were starting and you were, in that 3-month period and you tried to do a 95-pound overhead squat, then you're probably, unless you are really coming in with a lot of background, you're probably not going to get to that 4, right?
No, and so an example of this, I think the first or second year of the Open, we actually did overhead squats, chest to bar pull-ups, and there was like 3-minute intervals.
Yeah.
And I remember because that was a performance piece and not just a regular workout in the gym, it was you're going to do one or you're going to sit and stare at the bar until you do.
Well, that's different, right?
And
that's
that
more
is
about
different.
developing the skills
For
and trying
sure.
stuff. Yeah.
And so this is that instance where that exercise is not useful. Like taking the workout as written on the board is not useful in this context of the newer athlete. So it is about hitting that 4 as opposed to like, well, here's what it says on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot about like figuring out how to modify it so you can still hit that 4.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say that, and that's kind of what we do as coaches. How would you modify it if, let's say, somebody had a problem with their right shoulder?
Yeah. Assume they have one arm. So I look at that workout and again, I see the opportunity for a skill piece, an opportunity for gymnastic, but there's so much overhead in that, right? You have overhead squat, you have pull-ups.
Yeah.
So this is where I often get those text messages. Coach, I have this thing. I can't come in and do all of these movements. What should I do instead?
Yeah.
We have some options. So with it being a moderate weight squat, maybe we focus on a goblet squat where you hold something at your chest.
Yeah.
Or a different form of the squat so that you get that portion of it.
Yeah.
Same thing with, so maybe that's not a skill piece. It's actually the weight piece that we focus on instead. Then when you get to the pull-ups, it's maybe ring rows feel fine, but overhead doesn't. Or maybe we work on a gymnastic piece like V-ups on the ground or hollow rocks or something that uses that gymnastic skill. And then the run, they should be fine.
Yeah. And I mean, so my right shoulder is hurting me. I'm having to modify everything. Why would I even show up?
Yeah, because not showing up is, it robs you of an opportunity to...
Not showing up is bad. Showing up good.
That's what I was going to say. Yes, full caveman, not show up bad. But it robs you of the opportunity to modify and learn something about yourself. You have to modify when you're in life. You don't just get to not show up and not pick up your kid.
Yeah.
So let's train around the parameters. Let's get some coaching. A great example of this is back pain.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't come in because I'm deadlifting and that hurts my back. Well, wouldn't it be better to learn how to move with your restrictions so that you have more options when you go home?
Yeah.
Or on the converse, like, are you just going to cherry pick your workout days and give up your hour of time because your wing doesn't feel good?
Yeah.
It is always better to show up and do something, even if it doesn't look like what's on the board.
Yeah. So there's I think there's a couple of things here.
Yeah.
There's one for the mental health aspect of it and one for the physical health. So, I think Kelly and Juliet have this thing where they just say never
do nothing.
Yeah, never do nothing.
Don't do nothing.
Yeah, don't do nothing. So always do something.
Yep.
is what it is. And the idea here is like mentally, even if you show up and modify everything, you've kept the streak alive of you showing up.
Totally.
And that is actually more important, I think, than the physical benefits because if you show up often enough, you'll be able to work through the thing.
Yeah.
And let's say you have shoulder pain. I know doctors recommend this, all the time.
I hate it.
But resting, it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
The shoulder pain may go away, but all the things that cause the pain, they do not go away.
For sure.
And as soon as you start moving again, then the shoulder starts to activate. Something happens, your shoulder gets upset, and then it starts to flare up again.
Yeah.
And then, same thing with back. Like back, it's so weird. I was picking up, a blanket, and my back went out. And it's like, actually, the problem is you move terribly most of the time.
You look like an asshole. Yeah.
I didn't say that.
You didn't. I did.
But you have these movement patterns that need to be corrected. Maybe there's a hip thing, knee pain, whatever. And that manifests by you hurting your back when you pick up a blanket. How are you going to fix that?
Yeah.
You're going to wait for 6 weeks. It's not going to, you're going to take some drugs. It's going to be okay. And then you're going to slowly work your way back. And then one day you're going to pick up a blanket again and then it's going to hurt again. How are you going to fix that?
Yeah.
You have to actually fix that. The only way you're going to fix it is by showing up for something.
For sure.
And so mentally, if you show up every day, you start to ask questions about that back pain. Wait, does that happen because, I lean to the left when I lift things up? Does that happen because, I let my back round? Does that happen because I don't keep my core tight? Like, you show up often enough, you'll hear that stuff and you'll be like, maybe I should think about this differently.
Yeah, I think to that point too, there's a spectrum. So the absolute worst thing that you can do for an injury is move poorly.
Yeah.
And continue to injure yourself.
Yeah.
In the middle, maybe worse end of middle, you have do nothing.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit beyond that, go for light walks.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it's train with a coach, train smartly, and move well. Because the best thing you can do to prevent yourself from doing it again, to actually address what's going on, is to get stronger. Also have feedback on what you're doing. Like, what better avenue than when you have a coach watching you?
Yeah.
Hey, your back hurts because you're popping your booty. Like, let's work on that a little bit, as opposed to you having to figure out, what am I doing?
Yeah.
It hurts when I do the dishes. Well, it hurts when you do the dishes because you stand like a weirdo.
Yeah.
And what better avenue than having a coach to sit there and tell you, let's back this up. Let's do this more simply. Let's not do this crazy movement, but let's work on something simple and then have that carry over into what you do in life.
Yeah. So mentally showing up gives you access to solving that problem for good.
For sure.
Right? Will you solve it the next day? No, but
over time
you'll learn enough to solve that problem for good. Physically, like the actual physical thing that happens in your body, you train. Your body has to recover, and in recovering, it releases growth hormone, and that growth hormone helps you recover, but it also helps you heal that injury.
For sure.
Right? So your shoulder starts hurting less when you train more legs because your body's releasing growth hormone that happens overnight. You have to be asleep by 10 o'clock to get that.
Yes, you have to go to bed.
Yeah.
You have to eat.
Yeah. Most growth hormone is released between 10 and 2.
Mm-hmm. Hour.
Yeah. So like if you're asleep by 10, then, you get that. But like, so you release this growth hormone that actually helps with your injuries, even though you worked all around those injuries. Totally. So there's also that physical aspect of showing up. So part of why we talk so much about scaling is like the value of showing up supersedes your ability to do any particular movement.
Yep.
Right. And just like scale everything.
Yeah.
It
honestly doesn't matter to your coaches. And I would venture to say, at least in my classes and most of our classes, we really enjoy connecting with our athletes and helping them find the right answer to what they do.
Yeah.
If that wasn't the case, we'd go coach an aerobics class or Orange Theory or something else. But the secret sauce of what we do is connecting with you and finding the right answer for you to get what you need out of the workout. And so truthfully, everyone is scaling.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're doing what's exactly written on the board. That is a scaling of the workout as intended.
Yep.
And so, you just have to show up.
Yeah. So that's we talk about this. Part of the reason, like, is actually a thing. People look at the workouts and they're like, I can't do that, so I'm not going to show up. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's just an interesting one because if you always avoid the overhead squat day, then will you ever get the overhead squat?
Yeah.
Or the snatch or whatever it is. And maybe you don't even think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason why we have that movement in there. Is part of it is because it's so difficult. And you start to notice like, oh, my shoulders do this thing. My hips do this thing. It exposes some things that maybe you can work on.
Totally.
Right. And then if you work on those things, then everything else is easier.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I mean, I found that yesterday. I've been working on the snatch for many years, and I realized the only problem was my mobility, and
you've been working on
working on mobility, not working specifically on the snatch. I hit a PR by 20 pounds, right? And it was because I recognized that was the problem. If I had not recognized that was the problem, I wouldn't have worked on mobility every day for the last 8 weeks or whatever, right? And I have some technique issues on my snatch that I definitely need to fix. But the mobility was actually the lowest hanging fruit, right? And it still is. There's a long way to go.
I know. I don't judge.
But and I think this is the thing. We put these workouts out there in order to challenge you, and it should be like 1% more than your ability. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be easy. Yeah. It shouldn't be ridiculous. Yeah. But it should be a little more than what you think you're capable of. So in order for you to get 3 rounds, you might have to scale down 1 or 2 things. Now, on the other hand, if you look at somebody who's been here for 10 years and they're like, they've, passed all the advanced levels and they're, at the next level, you take the same workout, 10 overhead squats, 10 pull-ups and 400-meter run. Yeah. And you have the same goal for them, which is to hit 3 rounds or, 3-4 rounds and get their heart rate around 155, 165. How would you modify the workout for them?
I mean, if it's Rebecca, I have to throw 125 pounds on that overhead squat.
So it would be a heavier overhead squat.
Probably 95 for her. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Right?
95, yeah.
Because, I mean, when you see an athlete that has a specialty, anything with Olympic lifting, for instance, or an overhead squat, and I see Rebecca is so capable at that. Yeah. I would probably go a little bit heavier to get her that stimulus where that 10th rep is a little bit tough. Yeah. But 2, I'd push her on the gymnastics. Like, maybe there's something that she isn't quite as strong at. Like, hey, you're going to do all these in a row, or you're going to do butterfly pull-ups, or you're going to pick a slightly different angle to make that a little more difficult for you.
Yeah. Okay. So you're doing this for Rebecca. What is she actually going to do? So 95 on the
95
squat.
pounds. She may, depending on how her gymnastics are feeling, she's been training it a bit. She may go chest to bar. And she's going to haul ass on the run and be back in less than 2 minutes. Yeah.
So she might get more than 3 rounds on that. Yeah. Even with that weight, but that would slow her down.
The weight would slow her down very little. The chest to bar would probably be the thing that's more of a challenge for her to keep together, given everything else.
Yeah. And this is one thing, I've been doing this a little bit lately. Wendy and I have been kind of messing around with the scaling because we've been scaling whatever is written up because we're working on specific skills. And sometimes it achieves the goal, sometimes it doesn't. Yep. Right? Yesterday, we scaled the workout up And I think most people, what were people getting? Like, I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So most people were getting somewhere between 3 and 6 rounds. So the fastest athletes were getting 6 rounds. The slower ones were getting 3 rounds.
Tuesday or yesterday?
Yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And we scaled it up, and I think I ended up with 4 rounds. So it was in the range.
Yeah.
I probably would have like pushed myself a little more, heart rate a little higher if I'd have gotten 5. But we scaled up the pull-ups, right, and the weights to something that was challenging for us. And as a result, I was thinking I was only going to get 2 rounds, and I ended up getting 4.
Yeah.
And so it was like a new discovery. Oh, I can actually do these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing to remember when you're looking at these workouts, they are all scaled versions.
Yeah.
Like we target it towards one fictional person.
Yeah.
That, as at a certain level, and then we change it based on your ability. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes your ability exceeds that level. Sometimes it's less than that level. The point is you're going to get the same stimulus.
Totally.
Yeah. So that's what the scaling is about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other side of that too is sometimes you just have to go simpler. Like when you have to convince yourself to come in. Yesterday was a great example. It was snatch strength work. And that's where I actually got the text messages. Like, this isn't, part of what I'm training right now, or this doesn't feel good, or I have this injury or whatever. There's always free license to go simpler. We can always do something, and this applies over to new athletes as well. If we're squat snatching and you come in the door and you see someone doing something that looks like a party trick, like with 225 pounds over their head, you're going to think, what? And you're just struggling to deadlift. So just a reminder on anything like that. It is always okay and encouraged that we can find something for you to do if it's a simpler version or what have you.
So that's actually a really great example, because at one point I had a coach that was helping me with just the snatch.
Yeah.
And he was, I think, in his late 60s, almost 70 years old. And he only worked with people that were like 45 or older.
Yeah.
And he only taught them how to snatch.
Yeah.
And in order to teach them how to snatch, it was basically, it wasn't like you'd go in there and start snatching. He would work all the different angles to get your body ready to be able to hold that overhead squat position and then eventually be able to snatch.
Yeah.
And the idea was that movement is the perfect expression of strength and mobility and power and speed and all these things. And so that was the whole framework that he used.
Right.
And I worked with him for a month or 2, but I just never forgot that. Like, that movement actually is the hardest movement, of the hardest movements, because it is the full expression of everything that you're working for.
Yeah. So maybe you work on one part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe it's just the deadlift or whatever. But like, actually, even if you are 70 years old, you're going to want to snatch.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you are not able to do it on your first day. Yeah, maybe not even 3 years from now.
Yeah.
But eventually, your ability to do that movement is a reflection of your ability to do all the movements.
For sure.
That's actually my favorite movement. And it's the one that
really
is
fun.
the most challenging.
Yeah.
It is absolutely the most challenging, because when I first started, I couldn't overhead squat.
Yeah.
And it was just like, wow, I can't even do this basic thing with an empty barbell. Mm-hmm. There's something going on here that I need to fix.
Yeah.
And like, it's also the movement that I'm not great at.
Yeah.
There's so many different things that can be improved, but every moment that I get better at that, I'm better at everything.
Yeah. It's super humbling, and there's so much opportunity for growth that if you work on even just one area, whether it's shoulder mobility or your position in a squat, that's going to carry over to everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like, when we are scaling to allow you to develop the skills to eventually do that movement, which is the goal.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and if you continue to avoid it, like every time there's running, you don't come in, it's just like, well, great. Like, so you're just never going to run again for your whole life? Like, what if you have to catch a bus?
Yeah.
What if there's a building on fire, you have to get out? And like, oh yeah, I'm going to have to get on an assault bike instead of getting out of this building. I mean, like, it's just...
At least that works on your conditioning though. And maybe there is someone that's bone on bone in their knees that chooses not to, but that still is going to improve your readiness for if you have to run for a bus.
But I guess my point is this, right? Okay, there's a lot of things that might prevent you from running. However, there are times in life where you're going to have to run.
For sure.
So if you're not working on the things around the running,
Yes.
even if you don't run every time,
Yeah.
you're never going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And it's like, so the goal should be to be able to, you know, run 200 meters,
Yeah.
you know, or run 400 meters or
Yeah.
run a mile. Maybe you don't do it every week. Maybe you only do it once a year.
Yeah.
But like, if you can do it, then you still have that ability.
And if it highlights that you can't currently, or it's causing you pain currently, that's where your coach, hey, you're going to try this. So maybe next time it hurts a little less. Go smash your quads.
Yeah.
Go smash your calves.
There's this thing you can do to like make it better.
Let's get it 1% better. So next time, maybe you make it to the 50 meter.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of the goal is to always be moving forward towards the, you know, like you're moving forward towards the beginner levels, intermediate levels, advanced levels. So now you can do the workouts as prescribed. And then once you're able to do that consistently, well, then can I exceed that so that I can keep developing?
For sure.
And, you know, this idea that you would avoid something completely is actually something to question.
Yeah. It's
You know?
like throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to scrap my entire day because of this one movement that I can't do perfectly based on this dumb explanation on the board.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
And if you're listening to this and you ever feel embarrassed to ask the coach, like, what can I do instead? Or if your coach gives you a hard time about it, come and see me.
Yeah.
Come and see me. I'll have a talk with that coach. Because you should never feel embarrassed for that.
No, never.
Right? I mean, I'm like, I talk to the coaches all the time. What should I do for this?
Absolutely.
You know, and like, I don't always take the suggestions, but yesterday I was like, Wendy, well, you know, what should we do? You know, should we do more? You know, this is our last day. We're taking today off, you know. And so we did more.
Yeah.
And it was like me having that conversation with her. And we worked it out. Okay, great. That's going to work.
Even if it feels like something simple, like burpees are hurting my back.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's change it.
Yeah.
Let's do something that does work for you. It's so helpful to see someone actually be able to do something they came in not thinking
Yeah.
they could do.
Yeah. So awesome.
Yep.
Any other closing thoughts?
No.
I have one more.
Yeah?
The first day you came in, you said you couldn't do squats.
No, I
And
couldn't.
I said, let's see. And we found out that you could do squats.
Turns out if I do them correctly.
If you knew that squats were coming in that day
Yeah.
and you avoided that day,
Yeah.
where would you be?
Oh, I don't know.
You probably wouldn't be here.
I'd probably be more broken and really, really sad on my couch, not doing the things that I love.
Yeah. And that's like always kind of think about that. Is just like sometimes just showing up and making an attempt, you realize you're actually capable you realize you're actually more capable than you think you are.
Yeah.
And that in itself is a reason to show up and not worry about what scaling you're going to use.
It helps to have a good coach. It helps to have someone that knows what they're talking about and gives you tools to feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we'll shut it down there.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, we've got plenty of others. Go check out this one over here.